Hello everyone, this is Clay with Digifactor's Animation, and this is Digifactor Animation and Cartoon 2D Animation. I have two YouTube channels, and I am the creator and founder of those two channels. Okay, and this video is a work in progress of my vertical short for the vertical short category in the Animation at Work 2022 Cartoon Animator Contest. Cartoon Animator 4 contest. And this is my opening scene in Cartoon Animator 4. I already have everything set up. I've already recorded all this and got it all together. But I'm going to explain to you how I did everything. So at the beginning of the timeline, oh, whoops. Let me take that out of there. I don't know what. So at the beginning of the timeline right here, I'll set in my props of my buildings, and you can do that by just clicking on let's see, create media, which is right here, and this little window will pop up, and you'll have four choices. So you got prop, scene, image layer, and background. Background you can't adjust or anything like that. So you just got to make sure when you make your background that it looks okay the way you want it to look. So yeah. And then you got image layers. That's okay. And you got scenes, which a scene is see if you click on it, and you got to look for a PSD file. We're not going to do that. So what I did when I uploaded my screen, my buildings back here, my buildings, I did them as a prop. Okay, so yeah, I did the building as a prop. That's the same way with the car. It's a prop as well. Okay, now here, and if you watch, watch this character here. He is a G3, and I got him out of the actors category. So I go to here and G3 human, and I just got him right out of here, which is this character right here. So I put them in there, and then I'll mark it right here in the timeline, and I'll put them into position and set them up the way I want them. And at the beginning of the timeline, I'll kind of jiggle them just a little bit to create my uh, first keyframe. It's right in here. See, keyframe. Well, it's here. Uh, it's going to be motion. So yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. So I basically like to do it this way. So once I do that, okay, and I'll just grab the character and I'll move them across. Okay. So once I get that first keyframe into place, I'll move him a little bit until he's all the way across here to where you can't see him in the camera area or the screen area. So I do that, and then I'll just grab and move him across like that. And once I do that, I can play him back and he'll slide back. This is before I added the walking animation. He'll just slide across. So you move it back to the point to where you started the first keyframe. Okay, and now we're going to add an animation. So you go into Animation tab, Motion. We go into Elastic Side, and then you'll go to Move. Once you do that, you go all the way down, and the walk animation that I used for him was the walk L2L. So I make sure my character was selected, and then I'll double click to add that animation. So I keep double clicking it until he goes all the way across, making it look like he's walking, sort of like this. So he's walking aside. Okay, now with that character done, I added my prop of a car. And the layer is in between this character, the buildings, and this character here. So again, right at that point where I want the car to move, so I go right when he gets through walking by, I want the car to move right about here. So I'll move it right about there in the timeline, and I'll jiggle the car just a little bit to create my first keyframe. And then I'll move the slider forward a little bit to where the car, or until I get to the point where I need it, and then I'll grab the car with the mouse and I'll drag it across to the other side of the screen. And that will create that second keyframe for the car. And it will make the car move. So a car has moving wheels. The wheels are like this, uh, solid colors, making it that way. It'll give it the impression that the wheels are spinning really, really fast. So yeah. Now once that car gets across, I got this character right here. He's a G2 character. Okay, so yeah, he's a G2 character, and pretty much the same thing. I'll move him across. I'll set my keyframe by moving the character just a little bit, and then I'll just move the character all the way across to the other side of the screen where you can't see him, and I'll grab him and you know place them to the other side, and that will create my two keyframes. And then once I do that, I'll go to the motions, and I'll go to, let's see, G2, 2D, and move. And I'll look for, let's see, a happy walk. That's a sneak walk. Happy walk, right there. So I'll put them back to where the first keyframe is set. Okay, and then I'll just keep clicking as long as I got them selected. So I'll just keep clicking that happy walk, and he'll just dance walk all the way across, and like so. Now here, what you see out here, now the headphones here, they're not a part of the character. This is actually a prop attached to the character. So what I did was I'll click on the character, and then I'll go into composer mode. Okay, now you can see that the prop is set in front of his face. So I really didn't do anything. What I did was I didn't do anything to flip it around. I just left it like that in front of his face. So the way you add a prop, you'll click on the prop in the Contents Manager. Click on the Props tab, and you'll select Custom. And now this is where all your images that you use for props will be at. So I made some headphones. I grabbed it and I placed it right on the head bone or the face bone, just like that. And then I let go of it. And then I'll pretty much save the character, or you don't really have to save the character if you're not planning to use that anymore. But once you get that prop attached to that bone, you'll go back out of composer mode, and you'll see it right here. Because you already had your character in the stage mode set to face the right way. So when you click on it, you're going to say, let's see. So you'll click on that. Yeah, it's pretty much it, I think. Yeah, so whenever you animate the character, that prop will stay on the character. If you notice, I use two props, and one of them is an sound effects prop of some musical notes that I made to follow him, and these are keyframed, so they're not attached to the character like the headphones are. Okay, so yeah, and I animated it, and I pretty much followed the character and I kept up with it. Starting at the first, moved it a little bit, drag it across after I set it on the other side, and then I'll drag it across to create that last keyframe, to make it look like it's following. So that way, when the guy's walking, he's dancing across because he's listening to music, and the musical notes are over his head. Okay. Okay. So that's it for that. So I'm going to open up some videos that I made. Okay, in that same scene, um, I added, that's me adding the animation. Well, on that part, I kind of just dragged and drop it. But you can just, all you have to do is just click, double click on it, as long as your character is saved. So that's how I animated him. Okay, so I had to show you that just to show you how I did that in that animation. Okay, so that's it for the opening scene. Oh, let me show you this. Let's see. This is how I did my titles to pop up here. Now this is all before um, I added the other character. So I'm adding. The way I done it was I add my title as a prop. I added in there as a prop image. Okay, and at a certain point of the timeline, okay, where I want it, which would be at the beginning, right there. I'll drag it in there. I'll add it. Okay, and then I'll go into the Edits tab, and I'll select on Visible to make it. I'll unclick Visible to make it invisible, so you can't see it. So when I get to the point, certain point of the timeline, right about there, I'll go back and I'll go into Edit and I'll click Visible to make it visible again. So beginning, you don't see it. So to where I want the title to be, you'll see it. And then I'll pretty much, I kept doing it and doing it and doing it because I couldn't get it right. So you have to forgive me on that. And I did the same thing on the credits right after that. Now this is before I added the other character. Okay, so once I had just wanted to get all that done first before I added that G2 character walking across or dancing across. So that's the way I did that. Okay, now on this scene here, I added Kevin Eddy, and I pretty much did the same thing, movement, and then yeah. So I like again on the other video I did, I opened the door. Well, I moved the door out of the way so I can see what I'm doing here. Sorry about that. That way I can see what I'm doing here because I want to place Kevin Eddy here. And then I'll have if you see this outline, that's another Kevin Eddy that's invisible. So I'm going to make him visible. See, there he is right there. And then I'm going to make this Kevin Eddy invisible. And then here I'm using opacity. I don't know why I did that. I'm always used to using opacity in other softwares. So I keep forgetting about the visible a lot of times. And the visible is really excellent for, you know, the popping in and popping out, disappearing and reappearing. It helps a lot. It's, you know. Anyway, so that's how I got Kevin Eddy in there. So let me speed it up a little bit. Now what I'm going to do, let's see, then I get them to where I want them. Took me a little bit. It took me a little bit to get it right, but I got it right. And then I realized that hey, there's a visible thing. I can just do the visible. So at the end of this, I went with the visible. It made it a lot easier. I don't mind sharing my mistakes because that's how we learn from one another. Okay, now that I got them into place, I'm going to simulate the door opening. Okay, so I'm clicking on him, and uh, I'm going to use motion. I'm going to animate the bones. So I want to have his uh, wrong hand. I want to have his right hand opening the door. So I'm just going to animate that, and this is in the 2D motion key editor. So yeah. So I'm animating his arm to open up the door. Now, I play that back. Okay, like so. Now, the walls are prop, the doors are prop, and they're in different layers. So I got Kevin Eddy, the first Kevin Eddy, or the second one, those two Kevin Eddies in the back layer. I still had a little problem with him popping in. Because I tried using opacity before that, and I realized, I better go ahead and just finish it off by uh, editing the opacity a little bit. So I got it to where I wanted it. Right about like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to simulate the door opening right when he puts his hand on the doorknob. And the way I do that is I'll kind of like jiggle it a little bit to add that first keyframe. Then I'll kind of move it just a tad bit forward. And then I'll scale it and then move it to the right. This is a perfect simulation of the door opening and closing. Like that. Now that the door is open, I want his arm to go down. Right at the point to where it opened. Because he kind of like slammed it open a little bit. So I'll go back to the point and then I'll move the bone a little bit to add that first keyframe. Then I'll go back to the elbow joint and do the same thing. Move it forward a little bit right at that point there. And then I'll animate the arm dropping down. Like so. Okay, now I got that part done. So what I'm going to do now is he's going to walk forward into the bar. And I do that by I'll grab them and I'll move them forward and I kind of scale them a little bit larger. Once I do that, then I'll add my animation walking forward. So I'll do it again. And I'm double clicking the icon for the animation on the character. So he walks in front of the door, opens, and he walks in. Okay. And then on the next part, see, okay, so he's walking to the door, open it, he walks in, and then I have the side view of Kevin Eddy. So right at that point there, I did a visible and invisible to simulate that he turned right to look to the right. Okay. So now I'm animating the camera to move to the right because he's looking to see who's all there. So he looked across the room and he sees Kevin Eddy and he sees me and Charles Hart. So I'm See, what is this? Yeah, I'm fixing the mouth because when I was animating the mouth, I left it open. I forgot to shut it. So I'm making his mouth look shut. So, and then I'm going to do this. I'm going to simulate those characters. All of what I did was click on their mouth and I kind of animated their mouths in the sprite editor and just select different mouth movements to simulate them talking to each other. Okay. So now on this part, I got Kevin Eddie fixing to walk up and say hi to the guys. So I kind of moved, I kind of started with a fresh Kevin Eddie, and I moved at that point right in front of the view screen. So we're talking about right here in the middle of the timeline where I ended the other scenes. So I'm putting him right here, and I'm making my first keyframes and everything while he's in that position. So I'm going to have him walk forward a little bit. As you can see, and then I slide them into place to create. I'll mark the first one, and then I'll move them over to the middle to mark the second keyframe, and that will create that timeline for them. So once I do that, I keep adding the walk motion until I get it to where he's right in the middle. So once I get that, I'll add a idle animation to where he's stopping. So I didn't want that one. I didn't like the way he did that, so I'm going to use another one. There we go. Okay, so that's that one. Now we're going to select this one, and I'm going to show you. Now this is me adding making the sound files with them talking. So I'm using Audacity. I use Audacity in a lot of my projects. Okay, so I'm using Audacity and I'm saving it to a folder, specially made for this project, and I'll name it Kevin 1. And all the voice files that I make, I name it with numbers. That way it helps me keep them in order. So he's walking, and at that point, right before he starts walking up, I want him to say hi to everybody. Hey Clay, hey Charles. And you can see he's talking to him. Okay, so that's pretty much how I animated him talking on that part. Let's see. Now I'm adding, let's see, hold on a minute.
You alright?
So now I'm adding the face puppet. I'm adding face puppet movement to them, to their faces and their heads, and making their heads look around and their eyes blink and all that. Same way with Kevin.
Hey,
I mean, you don't want everybody looking like they're on
hey,
something and their
Kevin.
eyes stay wide open.
Kevin,
So
how
you want them to
doing?
blink every now
Alright?
and then. Now, I did the same thing with the sound bites and them talking and all that, the sound files, them talking and everything. So I added all that in there to them already. Alright. Okay. Now let's go here. Now, this is me in HitFilm. I'm putting it all together. Adding my special effects. This is HitFilm Pro. I'm adding the music, the sound of them walking, sound of the car driving by, and I use a city ambience for the sound for the background of the city. And then here I added an ambience of a bar. Make it sound like there's other people in there talking. So I've added my credits and all that there. Now the part in Cartoon Animator 4 where how I just added the credits. You don't have to do it in Cartoon Animator 4. I just wanted to show that you can. You can do all your titles and all that with Cartoon Animator 4 instead of using the editor. But I used Hit Film Pro to add all the other credits in there. And I also added more sound effects and stuff like that in there. Okay. And I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that concludes this work in progress of my vertical short entry for the contest. So I hope everybody enjoys and have a blessed day.